Umar Johnson is public enemy number one on Black Twitter today, more specifically the FBA section of Black Twitter. And it's all because of this particular podcast clip that's going viral.
The growing understanding of a movement called FBA.
Okay.
Pan-Africanism and FBA. Mm-hmm. How do they contrast or complement one another?
Okay.
Umar Johnson is a Pan-African. As a Pan-African, you don't believe in delineation. That's the difference between the two. So Umar Johnson obviously isn't a fan of FBA nor ADOS.
Nobody compares to Pan-Africanism. If you want to go achievement for achievement, you can put all them together. You don't touch us. Okay, and I say that respectfully, but it's the truth. Okay. ADOS FBA, respectfully, I'm going to go with both groups because they represent basically the same thing, but there are differences, right? So ADOS.
Which is a descendant of slavery.
No, they're first. FBA comes later.
Okay.
Okay, but they both exist. FBA is more popular, right?
Okay.
ADOS FBA. I don't have a problem with the American African people seeing the need to make it clear to other branches of the global African family that when you come here, you need to be clear that we built the house and rolled out the carpet for you. Be respectful in my home the same way you would want for me to be respectful in your home.
I agree with the statement 100%. Umar Johnson is spitting 100%. Delineation started with immigrants coming over here and being disrespectful, not the other way around. Black Americans, for the most part, pushed in a civil rights bill for immigrants to come over here. But when some immigrants came over here, a small percentage of them became like anti-Black Americans. They said F the unity, right? They began to disparage them, call them names, stick their nose up at them, was condescending, joined white supremacy, saying things like, y'all don't got any culture, y'all are lazy. So it's only so long a group of people could shit on you before you say, bro, I don't want to be associated with these people. Now, it was a small percentage of immigrants doing this, but nonetheless, though, they were the loud minority, right? So when a loud minority is taking up a narrative, the narrative is assigned to the entire group. Same with FBA currently, right? Prosperity can exist without oppression. Delineation can exist without hate. So when you have a small percentage of FBA, they're on Twitter, they're on YouTube, they're calling immigrants racial slurs, they're taking the position of agents of chaos.
So the concept of that American African identity, I have no issue with it. It needs to be done. It needs to be said. This is not new. What is new about it is the adversarial stance that they are taking towards African immigrants who come here from the diaspora, and the energy that they give them, the negative energy that they give them, which supersedes the negative energy you give to the white man who enslaved you then and oppresses you now. There's nothing a continental African immigrant can do to me that can supersede what the white man has done to me. There's nothing a Caribbean, Central South American African immigrant can do to me that can exceed what the white man has done to me. So why is it I can have so much vitriol, hatred, disrespect, animosity towards someone who looks like me just because they came from another place, when the white man who's responsible for my hell here, I'm never giving him half that energy.
I'll be a fool to sit here and say that the racist and xenophobic people that we see on YouTube and Twitter represent all of FBA, or even a majority of them. They just don't, right? The majority of FBA aren't hateful. However, there is a loud minority that is. And that loud minority creates the most resistance for the group. Because most immigrants love Black Americans. Most immigrants don't see ourselves as any different. Most immigrants aren't racist, right? Most people aren't racist. Just like most FBAs are good people, most immigrants are good people. But the loud minorities on both sides make it impossible. Like when you have people who are on Twitter, who are on YouTube, calling immigrants racial slurs like tether, that reflects poorly on the entire group. Now, those immigrants probably don't really have nice feelings towards the name FBA, because when they go on Twitter, it's only FBAs calling them tethers, right? And calling them racial slurs.
And then on top of that, it's contradictory in this way. You still identify with the white man.
Dr. Umar Johnson is correct when he says they don't have that same energy for white folks. We experienced it firsthand, man. You had YouTubers like Willie D and others who were calling for a boycott on all African businesses because a lady had a bad experience at an African braiding shop. There was a literal call to boycott everything. How do you logically justify that? It doesn't make sense at all whatsoever, man. Right? Because this energy is not applied to other groups of people, right? If you have a bad experience at a Hispanic business, there's not a call to boycott all Hispanic businesses. If you had a bad experience at a white business, there's not a call to boycott all white businesses, right? But you literally have them coming online and pushing this. And I'm like, hold on. How do you like justify, like, how is that right? That because somebody had a bad experience at one African business, you're not saying boycott all businesses. You're now saying affect a mom and pop shop who's trying to feed a family and serve food like at the corner of their neighborhood, now boycott them too, hurt their pockets, and they have no idea what a diaspora war is. They treat everybody the same. It's not right and it's not cool. These people are racist. But it's important that we acknowledge that it's a small minority. So far, I've agreed with Umar Johnson, but here's where Umar loses me, okay? So Umar then transitions on the conversation of reparations and resources. And this is where I fully understand why there's backlash for this interview, because Umar Johnson is dead wrong in what he's about to say.
Don't have an issue with the concept. I take issue with the strategies and
What about if someone is saying that, all right, we look at anyone that is putting in our place and getting access to resources that belong to us because they built their cold wealth off coerced labor from our people, but you can come in as an African, as a quote unquote immigrant and get certain access to things that maybe the foundational Black Americans, what they call themselves, believe that, yo, that's our stuff. And so I don't look at the African any different than I look at any other, ethnic group that comes over and tries to take that place.
If that's the case, where is your campaign against the Latinos? Because I don't see it. Where's your campaign against the Caucasian immigrants? I don't see it. Where's your campaign against the South Asian and North Asian immigrants? I don't see it.
But see, what I think fragmented everything is the reparation talk. And so I think the reparation talk, a lot of the foundational, and I could be speaking out of school, but my limited understanding of it is, I think that they believe that the reparations belong to descendants of slaves.
Well, I'm going to say this as a Pan-Africanist, because we invented the reparations fight. It don't come from FBA. It don't come from ADOS. This was around before they were born. You feel me? Yes. Pan-Africanists gave birth to it. Reparations for me is not about different groups and sects of the race fighting for their crumb off the big pie. This should be one fight, one reparation. Do you feel me, Loon? We can split it up how we want to split it up after we get it.
That makes no sense whatsoever. Reparations extend far beyond slavery. It also has to include the civil rights movement, things like redlined, right, disenfranchised Black Americans. Civil rights leaders were being beaten, murdered, right, with no accountability whatsoever. Like their murderers were being taken to court with an all-white jury and being let out the same day. These people had no accountability whatsoever. Horrors were not accounted for. Even things that are glossed over, like Black Americans couldn't go to certain schools, all-white schools, that affected their upward mobility. Education at that time was the #1 way out of poverty. So the system of disenfranchisement affected Black Americans disproportionately. So of course, that need to be accounted for. So I don't feel like that a Nigerian who don't have any ancestry in America, who never had a parent come here, grandparents weren't here, I don't feel like giving that Nigerian a check for what happened in slavery and the civil rights movement is fair whatsoever. Now, Umar Johnson will rattle off things like, yo, the British also was involved in slavery, so we need to check for the British as well. Cool, right? If Black Americans want to join other immigrant groups like Jamaicans and Haitians in the fight against the British, then cool. But the check that America provides has to go to Black Americans. Now, how you figure out who deserves it in terms of lineage, y'all figure that out, right? But damn sure shouldn't go to somebody in the Congo who ain't never touched foot on American soil. Why would they be getting a check?
But by you fighting divided for the same restitution, you playing right into the hands of your enemy. There was one slavery, took some of us to the Caribbean. There was one slavery, took some of us to the Americas. There was one slavery, took some of us to Central and South America, right? But there was one African slavery. So the Africans of the world, from the continent to the British, Canada had slavery, Australia had it, right? We should all come and sit down. Let's fight this together.
See, I think they reject
You
that.
would get it quicker.
Yeah.
You would get more because guess what? It's a united front. But because we hate each other more than we hate racism, because we hate each other more than we hate racism, I don't want to unite with no black Africans. I don't want to unite with no Caribbeans. And you got Africans saying the same thing. I don't want to unite with no descendants of no slaves, right? I want to fight my own thing. So ECOWAS got their own fight. Black British got their own fight. Canada got their own fight. Black America got their own fight. And it's sectionalized, sectarian.
That's what I'm saying.
Nobody communicating with each other. So the white man going to play his old game of what? Divide and conquer, separate and rule.
That's why I wanted to have a conversation about the FBA and the Pan-Africanism, because that's what's going on. Although I hear when you speak, although you're Pan-Africanist, I hear some of the stuff I hear from foundational black Americans.
Well, remember, there's nothing wrong with advocating the rights of your unique group. A Pan-Africanist in South Africa can speak up for South Africans and still recognize the greater vision and greater goal of a united race. You see that? So as Pan-Africanists, we don't just focus on the whole. That's the goal, but we also got to take care of our people where we are. So I don't have an issue with the American African people having a black agenda for themselves that they need to carry out. It's only when you start criminalizing and antagonizing other Africans as if they're responsible for the condition you in. Loon, there's only 3 million African immigrants in this country. They are not the group most responsible for siphoning off from your set-asides. Right. You know who that would be? White women, homosexuals, and Latinos.
I don't think Loon was asking questions. I think Loon was expressing his belief. Loon is an intellectual, a very smart guy. I don't feel like Loon don't know what ADOS or FBA is. Loon is very aware. So when Loon says, yo, like the African immigrants or the black immigrants, they're coming over here and they're taking away our resources. How? Bro, like the biggest beneficiaries of DEI was homosexuals and white women. Right? Yo, billions of dollars was sent to Ukraine and Israel. You think that the black immigrant coming over here is taken away from what? Like, what resources is the black immigrant taken away from? Like, you think America is running out of money to where because they give a black immigrant $1, they can't give a black American $1?
Who they rarely ever talk about.
And you know,
and let me also say this, Loon. Let us be honest. What do we know about the psychology of oppression? The victim often imitates the victimizer. The oppressed often imitates the oppressor. What do I mean by that, Loon? I don't want to be the most oppressed person. I got to find somebody and put them beneath me so I can look down on them and mistreat them. And this back and forth between black Africa and black America, a lot of this is victim consciousness. I don't want to be the lowest, so I'm going to victimize and step on the American African. I don't want to be the lowest, so I want to victimize and step on the African immigrant, because in America, we're the lowest. We are the lowest in the social order. I'm not saying we internalize that.
Right.
I'm saying that's the white agenda.
Yes.
We don't want to be the lowest. So rather than build myself up, my hospitals, my schools, my banks, my trains, my import-export, you see that? My industry, my own trade market, stock market, rather than build myself up to compete with everybody else, I'm just going to demonize.
But what if it's about,
So I have somebody lower than me, because I want to do to somebody else what the white man been doing to me. And we all have that disease.
It doesn't make sense whatsoever, like at all, right? These narratives are being formed to vilify black immigrant groups. It doesn't make sense. You think the reason why you not eating is because an immigrant is, no. America ain't running out of resources, bro. They're choosing not to give you the resource. There's an entire bucket of resource over here, but they making you understand the reason why that spoon is empty is because that immigrant is eating out that same spoon. Why are immigrant groups and the disenfranchised in America fighting over the literal crumbs on the spoon when there's an entire wealth of resources over here that they can't access. People over here are getting fat. They're having food comas. They're enjoying themselves. But they got you believing that the reason why you starving is because of this immigrant who's also trying to eat the little crumbs as well. That's not the case, bro. Yo, we are one, right? We're together. Don't allow the hate on both sides to convince you that we're somewhat hate. No, we don't hate each other, all right? Like any black immigrant who call a black American a Kata, you are an enemy of mine. Any black American who calls an immigrant a tether, you are an enemy of mine. It's really that simple. Yo, I've proven it. Listen, yo, I was a fan of Willie D. I ain't a fan no more. Right? Yo, I had content creators on YouTube that I was friends with. I cut it off. Yo, I cut off African content creators for saying words like Akata or saying certain things that I assign to white supremacy. Just like, yo, I cut off black American content creators who out here pushing to boycott African businesses and calling black immigrant groups tethers. Listen, if I'm not giving a white man a pass for white supremacy, I'm not giving any one of y'all a pass for white supremacy, bruh.
I'm speaking universally, every African group in the world. Because remember now, I've met them all. They always looking for somebody to put under their foot. If I can't beat the white man, let them join them by having somebody under me too.
So, but if it's about resources and reparations, so if it's about reparations, right, for Americans, descendants of slaves, because I agree with you. I think it shrinks the coalition when we have like, ADOS and FBA and Pan-Africanism and regular just black people who ain't doing none of that.
Pan-Africanism, our focus is the whole. We're the only philosophy in
inclusive.
The world that is inclusive of everybody. Nobody else has that. They want to make you a Hebrew.
What strength is that?
They want to make you a Christian. They want to make you a Muslim. We don't have that. We believe in freedom of religion. We are about unity of the race. We see the African race as a family that we want to be cohesive.
Oh, let me know what y'all think. Yo, ultimately, man, I just think if you a sellout and you a African immigrant or a Haitian or a black immigrant in general, then you a sellout. If you a sellout and you are a black American, you are a sellout, man. Right? But the sellouts don't represent the entire groups, no matter what side you're talking about. Ultimately, there's more of us that are normal than there is of the hateful people. And we have to focus on the love, man. The love is always going to, outroot the hate, But let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think about this? And if you're still watching this video and you want to watch another good video, then click on this video right here somewhere on my screen to find out why NBA YoungBoy is threatening to hurt Playboy Max very badly. I'm going to see you guys in this video. And if you enjoy my content, there's a button below this video called a hype. Click on that click on that button and send me a hype. Hypes are how you tell YouTube that you want them to push my video in the algorithm. You get 3 hypes a week, so please send me a hype to this video if you love my content. I'm going to see you guys in this video, okay? I'm out of here, folks. Peace.